People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
People don't care about what you know until they know that you actually care, says today's Ask an Expert. Hi, I'm Joshua Carlson, co-founder of Propelo Media, and today I sit down with Brandon Lee. He's a serial entrepreneur that is focused on helping businesses more efficiently leverage LinkedIn. He's going to talk about some of the missteps that most businesses are doing today. We're also going to dig in and talk about how you can curate a better network within this conference. And finally, we're going to talk about engagement strategies that are proven to work within the platform. Now let's hear what Brandon has to say. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on our Ask an Expert show.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for
All right.
having me.
Of course, of course. So you and I are survivors of the real estate marketing space going back nearly 20 years at this point. But today we're really talking more about the power of LinkedIn. And so I wanted to kind of just kick things off first by just asking kind of a foundational question around what do we think the biggest challenges that businesses are facing today? And I don't want to necessarily tie it to LinkedIn. I just want to kind of look at
Yeah.
the landscape at large.
Yeah, gosh, that's a big question too. I think fundamentally, from a revenue side, I mean, there's a lot of other, supply chain and all those other issues that companies are weighing heavily right now on them. But from my point of view, my world, revenue creation and marketing, the big challenge is that buyers have changed the way they behave.
Mhm.
You look at, say, 20 years ago, and I use ballpark numbers, but let's look 20 years ago and beyond. Salespeople and marketing materials got in the door quicker because buyers needed access to information.
Right.
So we could cold call and more people answered. We could cold email even and more people would answer. They would respond. Even on the marketing side, the top of the funnel activities, bringing people to a landing page, paid advertising, all of those motions are losing their fruit. They're not dead. I don't like to speak in extremes, but they are losing efficacy. They're not producing like they used to. And I'll give you this example. I was on a call a few weeks ago with a enterprise sales leader, and he shared that they looked at their QBRs and their SDR team had a 97% close loss rate.
Mhm.
Their MQLs were virtually zero. And their AEs, who were still had a pretty good turn, they were closing about 38% of their opportunities,
Mhm.
had no pipeline. And he said, seasoned, successful sales leader, he said, I've gone into my bag of tricks. Like I've done everything
Yeah.
I know how to do. And quite honestly, things aren't working. And I'm cautious to say nothing's working, but overall, the machines that we've been used to over the last decade plus with digital marketing, with inbound marketing, with SDRs, with cold calls, with going to conferences and trade shows, all of those activities that we relied on are not working the way we expect them to anymore. And
Right.
there's just this big collective, what's going on? What do we do? That's what I see as the biggest challenge facing sales and marketing teams right now.
And I'd venture to say you kind of experienced this yourself to some degree, right? A little internalization because you did do a fairly big pivot and you really started to look, say, okay, well, these challenges are facing the landscape at large, but they're facing me. So
Yeah.
how do we revisit this? How do we reapproach this? So talk about kind of how that started
Yeah.
germinating.
Yeah. So early in my career, I had a lot of success with doing the traditional go-to-market motions, launch a call center, create direct mail, go to trade shows, and built very successful companies doing that. That was the time that we met.
Yep.
And we had up in Coeur d'Alene, we had a call center. We had about 50 people in a call center. We had direct mail. We were spending probably 100 grand a month on direct mail, but we had good data. We knew what it was doing. It was
Yeah.
producing, it was turning, and we were growing at like $7,500 a day of new revenue. Very successful. We built a machine that we could rely on, a revenue creation, a lead generation machine that we could rely on. 2018, I started a new company and did the motions, incorporated some of the some of the modern digital. We looked at inbound. We looked a little bit at social. We had a call center. We didn't do direct mail. We did more email campaigns. We had email automations. We did the landing pages. We followed the
Yeah.
HubSpot model, if you will, the inbound model.
Yep.
And we weren't getting where we needed to go. And our paid campaigns weren't getting the clicks like we expected them to. We weren't driving the top of funnel. Sales cycles took longer. There were more people in the decision-making process. The more people you get, that means there's more opportunity for disagreement. And
Yeah.
if teams had internal disagreement, they tend to put it on hold. There's a lot more ghosting. You get oh, we had a great call, and you move them to the next, and oh, it's all great, and then you're like, hello,
Crickets.
hello, what's going on?
Yeah.
It was just all of that was happening, and we ended up shutting down that company. And it was my first big failure.
Right.
And I looked at it as an opportunity to learn, luckily. After I licked my wounds and cried a little bit and went, what the heck happened? I thought I was good at this. And just started doing the research and what is going on? And I discovered then that buyer behavior was changing. As you looked at the MarTech, which started out as the MarTech 750, or actually, I think it started at the MarTech 150 back in 2012. There were 150 companies in the MarTech space. And I think they ended up just capping it now. They call it the MarTech 5000, but I think there's pushing 10,000 companies in there now.
Right.
A very, very competitive, very noisy space. As startup environment has done what it's done. All the VC funded, the private equity funded, the angel funded, there's more companies out there with very similar messaging. And buyers have just taken a step back and said, whoa, this is a lot.
Right.
And they're getting, because of all those new companies, because of all the funding, they're getting more phone calls. They're getting more emails. And you can tell this has happened because then we've got spam filters on our phone.
Yeah.
It's my phone rings and I look and it says possible spam, possible
Yeah,
telemarketer or whatever. And
Yeah.
you don't answer it because so many of them are coming in. Our spam folders are full. We've also learned, because marketers have automated so many things, that if we fill out a form on a website to download a PDF, I'm in research mode. I'm just doing research right now, but I download it and then my emails, right? Because I got to give them my email. Then my emails are flooded. And then there's technology out there that they could find based on my email. What's my phone number? Even if I didn't give it to them. And then my phone's ringing. This happens with so many buyers across so many companies that are trying to get their attention, that what buyers have generally done is just said, stop. And they stopped responding, primarily because they have tools too. They have Google.
Yeah.
They have LinkedIn. They have Instagram. They have TikTok. There are all these other ways that they can gather information without being bugged. A story I like to tell is I love Salesforce content. They do great research. I love to borrow their research, but I'm forced to put my name in a form in order to download it. I'm not a customer for Salesforce. I'm not going to be a customer for Salesforce, but I love their content. So every time I download it, and now I just because I'm in their database and they have all this information on me, when I download something, I almost just look at my phone and wait. And usually within 60 seconds, my phone rings. And it's someone from Salesforce that wants to get me into a sales conversation. I think everybody listening can relate to that, that it's just gotten so busy. So buyers have put up walls. They keep people out they don't want out. I don't answer my phone. I don't respond to spam emails. I just ignore. I delete. Over the last several years, technology has moved into the LinkedIn automation. So now we're even getting these cold messages and sequences of messages in LinkedIn, right? We all know it. Somebody sends you a connection request and you're like, oh, sure, I'll connect with you. And then,
ding.
Boom. Yeah. Hey, thanks for connecting. We got this really cool thing. You got 15 minutes. Here's my calendar link. Let's do a demo. And you're like, so much stuff coming at people that we've realized I don't need to respond. When I need something, I'll go find something. We do still subscribe to podcasts. There's live shows that we watch. There's YouTube channels that we subscribe and pay attention to. It gives all of us more control to give my attention to the things that I want to give attention to.
Right.
Like most people, anyone listening and you, tell me if this is true. We got a few podcasts we follow, we subscribe to. We got some shows we pay attention to. And for me, I kind of line them up on my phone. And then when I'm on the treadmill, I'm out for a walk, I'm driving, I listen to them.
Yeah.
But I do it on my time when I want to, so that I'm consuming the content I want. I'm learning from the people I want. I'm listening to the people I want, which means I don't have to pay attention to the people I don't want to. And I
Yep.
think we're all in that same boat, and we have the ability to keep out unwanted messages. How's that for a high level?
I think that's pretty good high level. I'm hearkening back to, I think, circa 2001, 2002. I had a colleague at the time, Mike Stoltz. Can't believe I remember his name, but Mike said, "Hey, you got to check out this new website. It's called Google." And I was like, "What? It's got funny colors, like what?" And he's trying to explain it to me. And, I don't remember the exact words, but he was trying to sell the importance of the decentralization of information, right? Literally making it so that any one person can go out and accumulate the data that they want. So now this creates this huge barrier for us in the sales and marketing space because, right, consumer behavior has changed, buying behavior has changed. What led you to really focus on LinkedIn?
You know, um, LinkedIn has evolved into the business platform for the 21st century. I don't think we can really dispute that. LinkedIn has also evolved from being a place where people posted their resume. Like I know when I
Yeah.
first got on LinkedIn, which is in like 2008, it was, oh, cool. And then you would connect with people that you met at a meeting and did
Yeah.
nothing with it. You were just connected, right?
So
Oh, I
true.
got connections,
So
right?
true.
And you had your profile, which was much more than your resume. And it was a place that if we needed a job, we would use it. Then it started to evolve into, well, I can use it for research. ABC Company is one of my target accounts. I don't know anyone there. I don't know anyone in my network who knows people there. So I could go to LinkedIn and do some research. Who's there? You could search by title. And it started to become a research tool. Over time, and especially since COVID, it's become more of what I call a network platform. We used to call Facebook and everything else, they were social networking tools, and they've evolved, and those terms have kind of gone by the wayside. But I do see LinkedIn as that networking platform if you use it as a networking platform, right? It's the analogy I like to give is I could use a screwdriver like a hammer and I'm going to have some success.
Yeah.
But if I used it as a screwdriver, I'd have success all the time because that's what it was designed to do. If we use LinkedIn as a tool like a phone and we blast messages out to get attention, it's going to work occasionally. But overall, it's more of a networking tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not designed to do that. Even though there's tools, there's inboxes that allow us to do it, and there's all this technology now to automate those messages, but it's not really designed to do that. It's not how it was designed to work, and most humans don't like it anyway. I don't need another channel for people to send me cold messages. I've already have the filters on my phone. I have a spam folder on my email. I don't need another channel for people just to send me their stuff to try and get my attention. So in 2018, 2019, as I was licking my wounds, is when I started to see LinkedIn was evolving. It was becoming more of a networking tool. I saw it through the lens of a conference, and it is a 24/7, 365 conference. And if you get that mindset and you look at it through that lens, it makes more sense. So let me explain what I mean by that.
Sure.
When we go to a conference, Everybody's got their name badge on the lanyard,
Yeah.
right? We often walk around staring at people's lanyards instead of their eyes,
Yeah.
but we're constantly looking to see, who do I want to meet? Who do I want to know? And you see somebody and you go, oh, I want to meet them. And you walk up to them, you pull your brochure out, you stick it in their face and go, I've got a really cool thing. Do you have 20 minutes for a demo? Actually, we don't do that, right?
Right.
We don't do that at all.
Yeah.
And we don't do that in a face-to-face environment
So why
because
are we doing it online?
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's rude. It's not the way people want to be treated. What we do is we go up and we go, oh, Josh, I'm Brandon. Nice to meet you. And then we chit chat because that's what we do when we're face to face. There's that stage where we're learning each other. I could look at your badge and go, oh, Propelo Media. Oh, you're from Portland. How long have you lived there? Or when did you fly in? Or,
Sure.
oh, I heard you had really bad weather last week. Like we look for things to connect with the human because that's the way we socially work.
Right.
When you look at LinkedIn from that same lens, we can recreate those activities. It's just different. It comes in the form of we publish content so we can share about what we know, what we've done, who we are. The personal post, it's a big
Sure.
issue on LinkedIn, right? But we share a little bit about who we are because that initial stage is we're talking with somebody, go back to the show and you're in an aisle, you're in a hallway, you're walking to a breakout session, you're chit-chatting with somebody. That's a stage where we're both going, do I like this person? Do I want to continue the conversation?
Right.
Is this somebody that I want to spend a little bit more time with? Were they nice? Were they polite? Were they socially acceptable? Or were they, here's my brochure, here's my card? So I like to give this story as well. This was pre-COVID. I was at a networking event. We've all been to them. And it doesn't matter what networking event it is. Networking is networking. The rules of engagement are all kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
We introduce ourselves to people, we chit chat. So I was in a circle, there's 5 of us, everyone had a drink in their hand, and we were in that chit chat stage. I'm based in Atlanta now. We were talking about traffic. We're talking about how hard it was to get to the event, all that type of stuff, which is normal because we're feeling each other out,
Yeah.
getting to know each other. And this woman came on my side, and I just remember she was pretty short, and she kind of like parted me and the woman standing next to me. She goes, "Oh, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt."
But
That's exactly what you meant to do, but we'll leave that. She got into the center of the circle. She had a stack of business cards in her hand, and she started giving her pitch. And she's going like this,
wow.
talking to all of us.
Yeah.
And then she took her card and she put a card in all of our hands and goes, okay, so when you think of XYZ industry, think of me. And she says, okay, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to interrupt. And she backed out and left. And we all just looked at each other like, WTF? Like, did that
for
just
sure.
really happen?
Right. Right.
And somebody in the group put their hand in with their card and said, trash can. And everybody put the card in my hand and I threw them away. And we went back to getting to know each other. And as that conversation evolved, there was somebody in there that I wanted to meet more. And after chit chatting and all that, then I said, hey, can I get your card? I'd love to follow up with you.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And I'm like, well, what do you do? And what do you do? And we exchanged cards. And I took the card, I wrote a little note on it, stuck it in my pocket. And then the next day, I called them and said, hey, it was so great meeting you last night. I'd love to. Can I buy you a cup of coffee or can we go grab lunch or something?
Yeah.
The reason I was able to invite them to a coffee or lunch is because we did the appropriate foundation.
Right.
Now, I know that as we got into like the early 2010s into the teens, there's this big push that we didn't need to do that anymore. Automation, messaging, you just got to get in front of somebody. How you craft the subject line, how you craft the message, Don't use long message, use short messages. They don't have attention. Then we moved to personalization. Oh, it's got to be personalized. So let's use automation to personalize things. It became all about efficiency and expediency. And I'm not against it, except it's not the most effective because human beings still have feelings.
Yeah.
Human beings still choose to do business with people they like when all else is said and done. So those other outreach motions, again, I don't want to speak in hyperbole and go, oh, they're dead, they don't work. Much like that screwdriver, they work sometimes when you use it as a hammer,
Right.
but it's not
But
as efficient as if you use a screwdriver to screw things in and used a hammer to pound things in.
so
That
I
makes
think that
sense.
this is interesting because the tool in the right application becomes a valuable tool, the tool in the wrong application. So fundamentally, I think it is interesting because I do think LinkedIn from our early days, it was like, it's just my digital resume, right?
Right.
So that is
Yeah.
what I used it for. And I think LinkedIn did see the relevance to building an actual community.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking, or at least what I'm hearing you talk about, is almost a psychological epiphany of, oh, okay, I get it. People don't want to be sold to. They want to actually buy from somebody they know, like, and trust. And the only way to do that is to
Mm-hmm.
build rapport, to build
Right.
relationship, and to start actually truly engaging. So,
Right.
where does this take you kind of at this spot? Like, you have this epiphany, you're seeing kind of a at scale mismanagement of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next step for you?
Figure it out. What exactly does this mean? Like, I fundamentally or psychologically, and I'm really big into the psychology of sales. My sales training ground came from psychology. It's
Okay.
like if you learn people, then you can learn how to sell to them.
Sure.
And my favorite all-time book, I love lots of books, but my favorite all-time book is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm,
And it always goes back to people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
mm,
They don't care what you know until they believe in you. They have some trust in you. They have a little bit of belief in you. All of that screams foundations of a relationship.
yeah.
Rapport, if you don't like the word relationship. But when you have that, you stand out from your competition who's just pounding the cold outreach. As LinkedIn, everything's evolved, we started using the term a personal brand. Let's strip that down. What does it mean? Personal brand is reputation. Do you have a reputation? Do they know you? Do they know of you? What is it that they know of you, whether it's your company or you as an individual? So for me, I realized, hey, if I'm calling people, I prefer they know something about me before I call
Okay.
to give me a higher probability of them wanting to talk to me
Yeah.
than being totally cold like everybody else that's cold calling in there. So, how do we go about and create, if you want to call it a personal brand, but how do we go about and influence our reputation in the industry? And when you get into LinkedIn, we have opportunities to talk, publish content, and we have opportunities to, it's a combination. I like to say it's like the version of active listening is we can comment.
Mm,
Now, granted, it's still talking, we're writing words, but the person who published the post or the person who commented on the post, they don't know that we listen to them unless we comment.
yeah.
And if I go all the way back to how to win friends and influence people, and I love the whole the little analogy of we have two ears and one mouth, tells you should be listening more and talking less.
Yeah.
When we're talking and we're listening, and you go back to that circle I had of five people, what if there was 500 people in it?
Right.
Because that's how many people are paying attention to a post.
Right.
So if I started engaging with influential people who post and have lots of followers and lots of comments, and I start commenting in there, well, I'm introducing myself.
Right.
I'm acknowledging them. I'm going, oh, that was really insightful. How did you come up with that? just take that networking event where somebody says, what do you do? Or why are you here? Why did you come to this event? Like, oh, I'm researching this, or I want to get to know people because of that. And you go, oh, interesting. Why did you choose this event? Or how often do you come to this event? Or anything along those lines to further that conversation. We're getting to know each other. And what
Yeah.
happens is that barrier, assuming you don't do social faux pas, like get in the middle of the circle and hand out your business card to
Right.
people,
Yeah.
that barrier to their willingness to want to be in a conversation with you starts to lower because they're becoming familiar with you. Familiarity is so important. We can call it reputation, we can call it personal brand, but it's really, are they familiar with you?
So you've talked about a couple things here, and I want to kind of split these because I think it's interesting. Personal brand is obviously very important because, if they can't figure out who you are, you're kind of nothing to everyone, right? And so I think that that's important, but you're also touching on something that I think that we need to dig in further, which is the engagement aspect of it. Because I do feel like when the average person on LinkedIn hears, I need to be engaged more. Okay, well, I'm going to go spend an hour and a half in LinkedIn today, and I'm going to just use my big old fat thumb, and I'm going to right? Maybe I'll get creative and I'll use the little light bulb, emoji instead of the
Yeah.
thumbs up.
I'm
But
going to give a,
yeah, right. The
instead of a,
ponder. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I feel like what I want to make sure we expand on is that if you come into the room with, hey, here's my personal brand, right? No, nobody's going to really have a tolerance to absorb it. That's effectively going in and handing out those business cards. What you're really touching on, though, is having meaningful engagement from somebody else's output. Somebody else had a POV, somebody else made an observation, and you're coming in, whether it's affirmation or, contradicting, right? But you're coming in constructively to actually create real
Right.
engagement. And that's the part that I feel like most people are missing.
Right. Yeah. No, you're spot on. And we've been kind of trained in doing that with some of the tech that's out there, which is there's tech that will go automatically like somebody's last post. What does that do? Well, now we've kind of been conditioned that people that go and like posts, we're like, okay, whatever. It's so common now.
Right.
It's the easy, oh, I liked it. And you'll see strategies out there too. We've all experienced this, I'm sure, especially if you're a buyer and you're higher up in a company, is you'll see that somebody liked all of your posts from the last month. And you get
Yep.
all these notifications. So and so liked your post, liked your post, liked
Yeah.
your post, liked your post. And then
Someone's
guess what's
fishing.
happening? What's coming?
Someone's fishing.
Oh, the
Yeah.
connection request.
Yeah.
And we're now conditioned to know if I accept it, what's going to happen? I'm going to get a series of messages that want my time, which is my most important asset. They
Yep.
want my time to educate me on something that they think is important. But honestly, right now, it's not important to me.
So let's just talk about what are some strategies or some ideas that you have to share with people about, I guess, digging just a little bit deeper, right? Because I do feel like even your average person is going, okay, yeah, I get this. I get what Brandon's saying. Yeah, okay. But I still feel like for the most part, a lot of people see it and it's just a white canvas. And well, what am I supposed to say? How do we actually just think, listen deeper, listen more intently to come up with those engaging touch points?
Yeah. So I think at the top of that, there's a big fundamental mindset shift. I think we've been conditioned that social media is supposed to be easy, that social media is supposed to be a silver bullet. Like if I show up, POs are just going to start magically falling into my inbox, and I'm going to be sitting on a beach enjoying my commission checks.
Yeah.
A lot of the tech companies that came out, their messaging was silver bullet. We most of us, we get those messages all the time. What if I could get you 3 new leads a day?
Right.
Let me use LinkedIn for you. Oh, you're going to drop all these leads in my lap and the world's going to be wonderful. Well, they don't work real well.
Right.
I had a CEO who I was talking with about, using LinkedIn the right way, as I call it. A little arrogant, I know, but using it from a networking standpoint instead of an automated messaging standpoint. And he's like, oh, it just sounds so difficult. Da, da, da. And then he went on his way. We didn't serve him. And about 8 months later, I get a call from him. He was local in Atlanta and asked me if I wanted to meet and have a cigar. I said, sure. So I get there. He's got a really nice cigar waiting for me when I get there. And I said, okay, what's going on? He's like, well, you were right. And I said, great. I love it when I'm right. What was I right about? He said, well, I hired a LinkedIn lead gen company. And I said, oh, cool. How'd it work? He's like, oh, it's fantastic for them. I spent $1,500 a month for 6 months and got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I get it. It's we've got to change our mindset around LinkedIn. Going to networking events has never been easy.
Right.
Picking up the phone and making cold calls has never been easy. Working a room and meeting people has never been easy. We have to practice. We had to have experience. When I first got into sales, I had a mentor who would teach me these things. And because it was, if I went to a networking event at that age and confidence level and everything else, I would just be like, and I'm an extrovert, but it was scary. Like,
Sure.
what if they reject me? What if they don't want to talk? What if I say something stupid? Like, how do you do this in a way that's not offensive? And I know me, and I've done it before. I go into these things and I just kind of like look around and kind of stand in the corner eventually and then leave. But I never came to the conclusion that, oh, networking events don't work.
Right.
It was more of, I got to get better at this.
Exactly.
I got to learn how to start conversations. I got to learn how to listen better. I have to learn how to ask better questions. All these things that we had to learn. And that's the mindset with LinkedIn. It's, we hear things like, I don't have time to publish. Okay. You don't have time to share your genius, your expertise, your experience with your community of potential buyers.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have time to comment. Okay. What are you doing with your time that's so valuable that this activity that creates conversations, that creates strong connections, that leads to sales opportunities and builds your pipeline? What are you doing that's so important to not carve out a time? And just like anything else, like prospecting is key. We got to set a time to prospect. I learned in an early age, very grateful for a mentor and a sales leader, that you dedicated an hour a day to prospecting, or you dedicated 2 nights a week to going to networking events. It was all that, what we used to call top of the funnel activities, that if you don't do those, the rest of it falls apart. Right. So be dedicated to those. And I think publishing content and commenting is that digital version of prospecting. Put time blocks on your calendar and be dedicated to it. But it's that mindset shift of not, I don't have time, but I got to get better at this.
Right.
And if we go back to that analogy of being a 24/7, 365 conference, all your customers are there. They're all wearing name tags. Question is, are you approaching them in a way that draws them to you? Or are you approaching them in a way that makes them want to turn around and run?
So let's talk about the approach side of things. So you have an audience, it's audience of 150, 1,500, it doesn't matter, right? But you're realizing, okay, I want to use this tool and I want to leverage the power of LinkedIn, of this 24/7, 365 conference. How do I go about curating an audience that I actually want instead of an audience that I've just accumulated?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. And what I think I hear you saying is, over the years, you've created all these connections.
Yeah.
And maybe you shifted industries or something, and all of a sudden you've got all these connections that aren't relevant to your business right now.
Right.
Okay. There's lots of ways that we can look at that. But to start developing the connections you want or the relationships that you want, you've got to take a step back and be a bit more strategic. Now, one of the first things I hear people say a lot is, oh, well, my audience isn't on LinkedIn. Not necessarily true. They're there. The question is, how active are they and where are they? So we start with, we have two activities that we can primarily control. There's a couple more that we can control, but the two primary ones we can control. We can publish content and we can comment. When we publish content, it gives us an opportunity to share what we know. And we have to craft it in a way where we're educating and we're entertaining. Because if we craft the content that we share as a sales pitch, it's a brochure, and we're right back to shoving that brochure in people's faces going, look at me. And that doesn't work in the networking environment. If I go into that networking room and I look around and not what the lady did, but I just go, hey, everybody, listen up.
Yep.
Everyone's going to go, who is this guy? And really, when we just post about ourselves and our products, our services, and our buy me, buy me, buy me, we get ignored. But when we share things and we craft it, and this is where we got to learn, how do we share what we know? How do we share what we're experiencing? We write a post of, hey, I was on the phone with a client the other day, and this is what they're going through. My observation is that a lot of companies are struggling with this right now. What are you all experiencing? Or here's 3 ways that you can do to combat it or address it. That's helping your customers learn.
Okay.
It's helping them get educated. And in the process, it's somewhat entertaining because they're not being sold.
Right.
And I believe those type of activities draw people to you. Now, the big question you asked was, how do I go create a new community of people? We have to go where they are.
Okay.
And we'll hear, oh, my customers don't publish very much. Fair. 98% of people don't publish on a regular basis. But that means the 2% of people that are publishing on a regular basis are getting a lot of eyeballs. They're getting a lot of mind share. Go join those conversations. So we have a customer we're working with right now, and this is an easy example, but we asked him to identify who are 20 influencers that your target audience pay attention to. Now, the word influencer has morphed into all kinds of weird digital meanings. We're not talking about TikTok stars or, Instagram people.
Right.
Talking about LinkedIn, like who influences, who are the authors, who are the speakers, who are the consultants that influence your industry and your buyers? Because most likely those folks are content creators. They're publishing on a regular basis.
Right.
Now that's where our commenting comes in. Get those folks into a cadence and go look at their posts. So don't log into LinkedIn, look at the news feed and just see what's there and go, no one's here. Go to where they are. So bring us back to the 24/7, 365 conference. You look at the agenda, you look who's speaking, and you go, oh, there's a breakout session by so-and-so. I believe my buyers pay attention to him or the topic. A lot of my buyers are going to be in that room. Go to that room.
Right.
And then when you're in the big breakout session, you're sitting in the chairs and you're looking around and there's a bunch of other people around with you. And some people raise their hand and ask questions. That's a comment.
Yeah.
Some people sit in the room and just do this. Some people may occasionally clap and do a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Yeah. Right.
But you're seeing who's showing up. Then tactically what we can do, and this is why it's not easy. It takes effort. It takes focus. Go and comment. Get to know the speaker. What I found is some of the most famous people that are on LinkedIn creating content, you start commenting, they comment back.
Right.
They're just human beings, right?
Yeah.
Now, I heard a story the other day. Mike Weinberg was a guest on our show a little while ago, and Mike Weinberg's a really big name in sales, a famous author, speaker, SKO, like they have their own outreach. outbound conference, and somebody said, I met Mike because I commented on his post and he commented back. And then I commented again and he commented back. And then, when I was in St. Louis, I reached out and we had a meeting and I got to know him. Like, oh my gosh, Mike puts on his pants one leg at a time too.
Yeah, right.
And Mike's a great guy. But most people that are consultants or speakers or authors and they create content, they want that engagement. They want to meet people.
Yeah.
They've become who they are because they're mastered networkers. They build relationships. So go and do that. And then as you're engaging with them, so imagine this, Josh, I want to meet you. And I know that I go look and see that you've liked posts by Bob.
Yep.
So I start going and I engage with Bob, and Bob comments back and I comment, and I know you're watching. What's happening for me?
You're building equity.
Yeah, my familiarity, everything is building with you. And then what I can do is, you click on the number of all the likes on a post and you get a list of everybody that liked it.
Right.
And I can send you a message or a connection request and say, not, hey, Josh, I want to sell you something, but hey, Josh, I've noticed that you like and follow Bob's content. I've seen you like, and I could reference, you liked his post yesterday that was on XYZ topic. We seem to be in the same industry. Is it okay if we connect?
Right.
That's how we start building our connections with the right audience. The other tactic that works really well is as you're publishing content and as you're commenting a lot on other people's content, what's going to happen is people will click on your name because they go, oh, who's this Brandon guy that commented?
Sure.
And if it's a good comment and they like it, it's like intriguing. They click and they go look at your profile.
Right.
And if you pay LinkedIn, the premium or navigator fee, you actually get a list and you could see everybody who's viewed your profile.
Right.
Just like a networking event, people are nervous. They're scared. How do I reach out? How do I say something? How do I start a conversation? So what I like to do is I go in and I look at who's viewed my profile. And if there's people in there that I want to meet, I'll send them a message. Go, man, hey, Josh, I noticed you looked at my profile. I was taking a look at yours and we seem to be in the same industry. It'd be great if we could connect.
Right.
That's, for me, the human way of leveraging LinkedIn the same way that we do at a conference. We walk around, we look for the right people, we go to the right talks, we look around the room at a talk, we look at people's name tags, and we go, man, I'd like to meet you. And we go up and we say, hi, I'm Brandon. Nice to meet you. I see you're with XYZ company. Tell me about it.
Right.
It's not more difficult than that. It's just that, as I started at the beginning, it's a mindset shift. And that's why I like the lens of looking at LinkedIn as a super conference. And it's 24/7, 365. I could publish something this morning, and in a week from now, somebody can comment on it. And I get a notification. I go back and go, oh, cool. Thank you for that. That's a great insight. And I can keep the conversation going.
I love it. I mean, it's basically, think about how you would engage people at a real live conference and now just use that mindset and start thinking strategically about the platform itself. I want to jump into quick fire round, and then we're going to circle back and end up on a tech related conversation.
Okay.
So the quick fire round is, you got a favorite podcast right now?
I do. Let me see which one. I've got a spirituality one that I've been really focused on right now, but I do like the brutal truth of selling.
Okay.
I come back to that a lot. Yeah, that's on the podcast side. I learn a ton also from Anthony Iannarino. He's a prolific writer. He writes like every day. And so I learn a lot from him. And then Larry Levine with Selling from the Heart. He's become a pretty good friend of mine. I'm a huge fan of his. And his phrase of no more empty suits. As salespeople, we need to be educated, we need to be real human beings, and we need to be relationship focused. Those are three that come right off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, the next question was going to be, do you have a professional inspiration? And you may have just tipped your hand, but is there somebody beyond maybe a Larry that you kind of look up to?
Yeah, trying to think how I narrow it down. I think, the CEO side of me is more. I really believe in culture.
Yeah.
Brené Brown has had a real
Mm-hmm.
impact on me about vulnerability and authenticity. It's really spoken into how I build culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say right now she's this is like my second season of diving into her content
Okay. All
right
right.
now.
Well, that's a good one to look up. Early riser or burning the midnight oil?
Both. Uh,
Simultaneously or
yeah.
intermittently?
No, it's an interesting question. As I've gotten older, I've shifted more towards midnight oil.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was 4:30 every day I was up, but I was also on the West Coast then, where
Yeah.
I could start working at 5 and making calls and doing
Yeah.
things for 8 o'clock Eastern. When we moved to Atlanta, my whole world kind of got rocked. We first got here, I was getting up at 4:30 and I'd be ready at 5 and I'd go,
Where's everybody at?
I better get customers in Europe if I'm going to keep this
Right.
up.
You're just going to have to keep moving three
Yeah.
hours to the east every year. So,
Yeah. But I had to
uh,
shift everything, my workout schedules, everything. Like I had to shift my life around.
well, and I found that the older I get, like I still wake up early, but like I feel like some of my most productive business time is actually in that 4 to 8 o'clock. Right. And so I've just tried to adjust my schedule, to accommodate for that. Last quick fire is favorite pizza.
Oh, pepperoni, mushroom, sausage, bell pepper, and onion.
Okay. Well, I could end the podcast here. I don't think mushrooms belong on pizza, but I
Oh,
did ask about your favorite pizza. So
oh,
fair enough. Fair enough.
half
There
my
you
family agrees with you. So
Okay.
a lot of times I get that with half mushroom.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So jumping back into it, we've talked a lot about the human side, the psychology, the mindset shift to really treating this digital platform as if you were in a face-to-face environment. What I want to talk about now is you have started leaning on technology to accelerate some of these principles
Yeah.
into the LinkedIn environment. I just wanted to open it up to you to kind of talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think there's efficiencies at play all the time, and I like to build technology that makes the human more efficient, but not remove the human from the effort. So I'm not big on automations, but I'm big in letting the tech do what it does well, processes information quickly, creates content quickly, things like that, but always putting it in the hands of the human. So yeah, so we built some tech. We've got some AI, some proprietary AI tools that we are training an AI twin to be me, to be individuals.
Right.
So we take things like transcripts from videos, we take emails that we've written, we take social posts that we've written, and we feed it into this private knowledge base around the individual. And it's trained to learn, how do you think? How do you talk? What are words that you use? What are phrases that you use? What are your opinions on different things? So that when we go to comment, a lot of times I see people that go, I don't know what to say.
Yep.
We've got a series of we've created through a lot of scientific research around the different commenting styles
Okay.
that have come out of the research around communication styles. So as an example, there's comments that are more, people lean towards being like what we call a clarifier. They like to
Yeah.
ask questions. What do you mean by that? Or do you mean this? You have people that are distillers. Okay, so what you're saying is, and they kind of distill
Mm,
it into something.
yep.
You have people that are encouragers. Oh, that's really cool. I like the way that you're thinking about it. Great job. When you learn your own commenting style, and we built a comment style assessment tool, and then you have this AI that is your digital twin,
Right.
you can look at posts and go, what could I say that's a clarifier?
Right.
and it'll give it to you. And it's your voice, your tone, your words, your style, but it's not automated. The person actually has got to go through and review it, edit it if you'd like, and then publish the comment. Simultaneously, we built a tool that leads you into the posts that you want to comment on. It's too easy to log into LinkedIn, get stuck in the news feed, go down rabbit holes, and you're like, oh, I spent an hour just looking at
Totally.
stuff.
Yeah, right.
So the tool is you can actually feed the people you want to follow, the people who post, the companies who post, and put it into a cadence and just log in and go click a button, say, show me the most recent post for all the people in this list. There's 25 people. Show me everything they've posted in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
And now you've got like a curated news feed.
Right.
So now if you scroll the news feed, it's the people you want to be engaging with, not the people that LinkedIn wants to show you.
For sure.
So that tool plus the commenting tool, we built it in a way that we can capture the comments. So it'll pull the link to the post, it'll capture your comment, it'll put it in, and we can push that right back into CRM. So we can show the sales leaders and show the bosses, I was on LinkedIn, I wasn't off screwing around.
Yep.
These are the comments that I made on these posts, and these are the people that we were targeting to build relationships with based on those posts.
That's awesome. I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot of clutter even within, again, when we say social media, it's such a nebulous term. And then we're like, okay, well, we're going to narrow this down to LinkedIn. But even within LinkedIn, it's still a very big universe. And I think the value of being able to filter these down and distill the key people is tremendous. Yeah. Do you have an example of somebody that's recently kind of maybe jumped into it and it's just kind of talked about how they've seen a paradigm shift in how they thought about LinkedIn before versus now?
Yeah. So Chris Dunn, he works for a company called Blue Hive, and he has, he's around our age. He's been in sales a long time, been very successful. Watched his world change, especially in a post-COVID world.
Yeah.
Calls aren't getting answered, emails, the MQLs are shrinking. Started looking at LinkedIn differently, posted like brochure information. Hey, look at us.
Yeah.
Nothing really happened, and got to the point of like, hey, I tried LinkedIn, it didn't work. And then had an epiphany or an aha moment of looking at it differently. He sent me a text message the other day. It was awesome. He screen captured and sent it to me. He sent a message to somebody, kind of the example I said before. He sent a connection request to somebody who he had been engaging around.
Yep.
And guy accepted his request, and he said, hey, I'd love to have like a just get to know each other call, not a sales call, but just,
sure,
get to meet you. And the guy responded with, absolutely. I feel like I already know you.
Mm. Could it be teed up any better?
And I asked him, I said, dig into it, like find out what it was. And it was Chris created part of his posting strategy, and he's commenting as well. But he gets up early morning, takes his dog for a walk.
Yeah.
And we talked about like, what do you think about when you're on your walk? It's like, well, I think about work. I think that's, we drilled it down. So what he does now is he takes his dog for a walk and he takes pictures. Sometimes it's his dog. Sometimes it's him with his dog. Sometimes it's him. Sometimes it's the view. But he goes in and he posts about, on my walk this morning, I was thinking about, and he's writing about what he's observing in the industry, what he thinks is going on in the industry, what he thinks some of the challenges companies are having, how he feels about some of the stuff that's going on.
Sure.
And just shows up like a human.
Yeah.
The picture, they're dogs. If you're a dog person, you can't help but pay attention. Pictures of him where you're starting to build that familiarity. I see his face. I see him. Chris goes for walks every morning. He's got a cool dog. He's sharing these stories. I'm already starting to feel like I know him before I ever meet him. And then when Chris sent the connection request and asked for a meeting, the guy's like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Familiarity. He created himself to be familiar by publishing and then commenting. The commenting captures new eyeballs. And then those eyeballs come in, and we see it when people start following you. Like, They may not know you. They may not have the confidence to send a connection request yet. They might be nervous, but they can follow you.
Right.
We have that opportunity. So Chris has done a fantastic job of moving from being the traditional AE, cold call, cold email, all of that, to leveraging LinkedIn to make those other outreach activities more efficient.
I love that because it reminds me of a conversation I had years ago where, we were talking about different business types and we're like, well, you're kind of a tweener in between B2B and B2C. And the guy just looked at me and said, we're in the P2P space. We're all people at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if we're selling to
Absolutely.
consumers or businesses. It's the P2P space that I'm in. So
Yeah.
this has been fun. Where can people find you, Brandon?
LinkedIn. Go
There we
figure.
go.
Yeah. LinkedIn, Brandon Lee, the company's fist bump. If you know the slash on there, it's Brandon Lee Digital is my LinkedIn handle.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we look forward to having you back again soon.
Thanks, Josh. It was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Brandon as much as I did. There's two primary takeaways I want to end with. The first one is that there are no silver bullets, right? If you're going to take the time to invest into LinkedIn, let's make sure your strategy and your execution is aligned with the goals that you have. Unfortunately, too many of us out there are just spinning our wheels in the platform and we're really just wasting time. It'd be better to not do anything unless we actually take a paradigm shift and approach the concept of LinkedIn being this 365-day conference. I love that mindset shift. It's a great way for you to approach it and realize you shouldn't go up to somebody and start selling on LinkedIn immediately because that's not what you would do in the physical world. So let's apply the physical world into this virtual world and let's start propelling your business forward.